Native Land Pod is a production of iHeart Radio in partnership with Reason Choice Media.
Welcome home.
Welcome home.
This is Angela Rye with Tiffany Cross and Andrew Gillum. You are tuned into this week's MiniPod. No, you didn't.
Oh my God, are you like
I'm so sorry,
in the middle of a
Jay
podcast?
just FaceTime me.
Pick it up, baby.
Well, now you got to answer. Hi, Jay.
Hey, we're in the middle of recording. You FaceTime me.
We love you,
Bye.
Jay. You can FaceTime
Bye.
us anytime.
Bye.
Welcome home, Jay.
Say hi.
Welcome home,
Hi,
Jay.
Bye.
Don't be trying to dismiss the
Well,
bride.
I mean, she didn't FaceTime.
Okay, speaking of rights
Rights.
and speaking of crises,
Yeah.
picking up FaceTime and crises, Mayor Eric Adams of New York City recently appeared on The Breakfast Club, and he had something to say about migrant rights. And I want to know if you all think there's any truth to the profiling of DEI mayors, also known as black mayors, when looking at...
Also known as N-word mayors, but yeah.
Oh, okay. Carry on. When looking at the migrant crisis in these United States, we are going to play this clip and discuss.
Check out what they're doing. They're doing it to New York. They're doing it to Chicago. They're doing it to Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing it to Houston. What is the same in all those cities? All black mayors. All black mayors. And so what we're saying, same thing that I'm going through here, my brother Johnson is going through. My sister Bass is going through. My brother Turner is going through. So our folks, what they wanted to happen, Governor Abbott wanted to happen, we're going to turn these cities against their mayors. We're going to create this environment where they're all going to go against their mayors. Go Google what they're doing to my brother in Chicago. Go Google what they're doing to Sister Bass. So the cities have now turned against these black mayors that are making real change for the first time.
By over-policing black people.
And they're using this to say, okay, these black mayors are not competent. They can't run their cities. They're getting everything to the migrants and asylum seekers. This was a perfectly executed plan that we are buying into.
To make black mayors look bad across the country.
And when we're doing just the opposite.
I love this moment. You all know that I was raised by an activist and an educator. My dad is on the activism side, and we constantly were talking about the ways in which the government from the feds on down work diligently to try to dismantle black leadership, black power. We understand that by virtue of busing migrants from the border they're crossing into the states they step into to the north, there's already something going on there. It's already something afoot. So he talked about Mayors Johnson, Turner, Bass, and he was, of course, is Adams. Is there something to this? Andrew, you are a mayor. We talk about it all the time. Tiff, you're a conspiracy theorist with me every now and then. Yours comes with data. So there might be some data you can run to on this point. But I'm very curious about this.
Well, I do want to say that they also bus migrants to the Vineyard, which has a different municipality, and I do not believe has anyone black in power there.
Except it's also not synonymous with the vacation home of Barack Obama.
Right,
and
exactly.
the famous
It's like
summer
the vacation
retreat
home
of
for the
blacks.
quote-unquote liberals that they might say. And I shouldn't say there's not anyone black in power there. I just don't know. They have a very different way, the way they divide up who's responsible for the towns. I would be remiss if I didn't say that I definitely disagree with Mayor Adams on a lot of political issues. But on this one, I take his point that, Andrew, you told us a story not too long ago about Ron DeSantis who went to get migrants from Texas just to bust them as a political stunt.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm always moved to the humanity of these kind of discussions. I think about the people who risk life and limb and put their children at risk to get to these shores because they were in search of better opportunity, because they were literally not just in search of opportunity, but literally trying to save their own lives. Some of these states, particularly in South America, the policies that are running them out were influenced by U.S. policies. And so some of these states are borderline narco states. Some of these folks are fleeing because their lives are threatened. So it's always baffling to me, the party who self-identifies as pro-life, we of course know that's not true, but they self-identify as pro-life, will see these people and look at them in disgust and want to essentially, put them out to pasture in states where they feel like there are other people who don't look like people that we, acknowledge their humanity. So I hope that something changes. I know it is stress on cities with limited resources. I completely understand. We've heard a lot from people who say, no, they are taking resources away from us. I hear you. I understand that. But there's something about this that I think there is unity in humanity. And if we can find our way to say, yes, it's unfair what they're doing, but we want to make sure that all human life is respected and valued and you have food and shelter, I hope that we can get to a place of that position in this country.
And I think if we were to evaluate what these mayors are doing in response to the migrant crisis that has literally been dropped on their doorstep, intentionally for political stunts, almost in all cases, you'd see that they are extending the humanitarian arm of their cities, right? But what they're also being then faced with are these caricatures of them that basically say this is a city run amok. This is a lawless place. This is a mayor who can't handle big responsibilities. And I agree with Mayor Adams and have been on the side of it myself where individual mayors have been targeted, and there is no coincidence whatsoever around what is shared between them all. There's no coincidence whatsoever. But I also say the next step of this, by extension, they're attempting to assign lawlessness, ungovernability, lack of leadership to the Democratic Party. For a lot of these folks who come after them on the right, on the hard right, on these Fox shows, what they're showing is that this is what will become of America if we allow Democrats to take control.
Because this is where they have
they're
control.
poor people, they're this. They want to go this far left policies, and homeless are going to be taking over every street. Rapists and sex rings are taking over our city because this is what the future of our country looks like if these people are in charge. So they're playing on they're playing on two aspects of the boogeyman in respect to us. It is yes, the lawlessness. How many times have we seen ourselves in images in prison, attire? So they're lawless. They can't uphold the law because they don't follow it themselves.
Yeah.
And then there is the caricature of Black folks as the biggest recipients of the welfare state. They want everything for free. They don't work for what they earn. The DEI mayor, he's a mayor, but he didn't earn it the right way. He's not the most qualified. He's just DEI, which during your rundown I said it's synonymous for me closer to the N word than any. It's the most polite way. These folks are being able to incorporate that into their
when we take their definition.
When we take their definition, right? When we we accept their definition, that's what they mean it for.
Exactly.
So I agree with Mayor Adams, and I think it's a layer beyond. I don't think it is by itself exclusively about Black mayors. I think it is because of the tropes that they've spent decades ushering into the minds of everyday Americans about why it is you ought to be locking your door when you see a Black man walking toward you, why you ought to clutch your purse underneath you, why you ought to switch sides of the street that you're walking on. They're playing on a long history of investment in defining who we are, who they want people to think we are. And now they're attaching that to the Democratic Party for the power shift here. They believe we shouldn't have power, and if we have power, this is what it will look like.
All right, y'all, we're going to take a quick break, but before we do, we all know it's important for our community to stay informed, particularly in an election year. So tell someone you know about the show. Tell 5 people. Arrive with 5 to the podcast. You can also leave us a rating or a review. Definitely send in those questions and those comments. More coming up after the break. The other part of this that I think is interesting is also on that interview, Mayor Adams talks about how when these people are on your doorstep, you have a legal obligation or face the liability of not taking care of them. So he got innovative and created a program that may end up costing upwards of $53 million with Mobility Capital Finance. They provided debit cards to these families that will have $12 a day because they didn't want as we've talked about before on the podcast, the food that was given to them was nasty to them. It gives them an opportunity to go get food from places they like and eat. Hopefully, okay, $12 a day isn't much. We know that.
And not just places they like, right? These are culturally...
some of them, yeah. They can spend it on food.
They can get it any way they want, but
yeah.
a lot of food was going to waste because this isn't stuff that they were eating.
Yeah.
Where they were coming from.
Yeah, so they were there was a lot of food waste that was happening. This was another opportunity. Mobility Capital Finance is actually a Black-owned business. So they're getting this huge opportunity to, and I'm not saying that it's not a handout, but a huge opportunity to solve a really important crisis from the humanity standpoint, as you talked about. And so this is one of those moments where a mayor who very much ran on law and order, I don't always agree with Eric Adams either. When he talked about being targeted, I understood exactly what he meant. This is someone who's like, okay, I see this happening. This isn't right. I'm going to try to solve for it. And they're still trying to make you look like you're irresponsible. They're still trying to make you look like you can't manage your city. They're still trying to make you look like when migrants come in, there goes the neighborhood, which is a trope that we also understand and have experienced. It's going from one group of people of color to another. And I wonder when it all stops.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it does stop.
I don't think it stops over race by itself. I think the only way it stops is if we somehow had a realignment of what power looks like in this country. But
will we have that?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like I said before, I'm not convinced that what is motivating and moving these folks begins and ends with race. I think it begins and ends with who has power and who risks losing power. This is how I've always had it because I've built and designed this system for my advancement. What happens if someone who is not like me, didn't come from where I came from, doesn't understand my history, my lineage, my story, what if they start being able to make the rules? And then what if they replicate what we did, which is built the rules to suit us, except now they build the rules to suit them.
Right.
They make two mistakes. One, that's not what we're about. We're about equity, period. And that means for everybody. But if this is what's going through your mind, building the system like we built it for us, except now it's being built for someone else.
Yeah. But I wonder what you would say, particularly because you were a mayor, to people, because there are these issues. He referenced, Mayor Sylvester Turner out of Houston, Karen Bass out of LA. There are people in municipalities where there appears to be a fight over resources.
It makes sense.
And the subtext of that, sometimes the comments do come across as very anti-immigrant. We've talked about this before, where you're saying, no, these are people fighting for their resources. It can be, both and, right? I wonder what you would say to people who have these negative comments to me that pull from the oppressor's language and perspective instead of let's build together. But no, ain't no room here. You got to get out. What do you say to those people who feel like y'all have looked over us and bypassed us and now you're accommodating these folks?
Well, the first thing we don't tell them is that that's not true. Because in their everyday lived experience, if I'm trying to get a job and applying for one and can't get one, but you got here yesterday and yet you have one, we can't. They're never going to believe us or trust us that.
But is the job? It's not like it's a job with like 6-figure payments and benefits. Is it a job that people want to do?
But it is one that they feel that they could access.
Is it though? I know how they feel, but is it actually a job? Do they want to be day workers?
I'll put it this way: it almost
workers?
doesn't matter what you or I think about that. If the story that we're telling ourselves and that they're telling themselves is, I lost out on the opportunity because you.
But also it could be
that's the oppressor's outlook.
It could be, but it also is their lived experience, what she's saying. And the part of it is this. You have a job, I don't have one. It's not that it's the same job.
Period.
It's you have a job and I can't get one.
Yeah, and they made a way for you and they're not making a way for me.
That is how white folks have long felt about anybody who doesn't look like them.
But we all know that more than one thing can be true at one time. And so if it's somebody's lived experience, it's got to be validated. And what I would say is, as loud and proud as we are with the services that we are providing for asylum seekers and immigrants who come into the country, we got to be equally as loud and proud. If Mayor Adams had to go through and detail the budget that he spends on housing, on small business development, on what he spends on growing, building, sustaining, protecting the community, it would be a behemoth by comparison. But his job today is to deal with the migrant crisis that's right here on his street. And so that's what we're hearing a lot about. Those monies that are spent, they don't even compare, right? They don't even compare. But because we have, as you've already said, adopted the master's plan, using the master's playbook, thinking that we're going to disassemble that house using the instructions he wrote. We will not. He didn't build his house to fail.
And
he built it to thrive.
Know is if I'm getting SNAP benefits and my SNAP benefits don't cover my groceries, they're not paying attention to the fact that it's $12 a day per person going on this card and eggs are $11.
Right.
They're focused on the fact that you're getting benefits that I've been having to scrap for all my life.
That's right.
In some instances, I don't want to overgeneralize, but the other thing on this point is this same card that was created by a black company, a white council member, Gail Brewster, is like, we need to investigate. We need to investigate what this is. I don't know about this. Probably because it was a company or two or three that she thought could have got this contract over them when it wasn't their idea because it's a DEI contract.
Again,
probably,
the trope continues, right?
It's
all up in.
I just don't want us to participate in that.
No, I don't want us to either. That's a longer road, I think, for us to have to hoe. But what is important here about?
I
was just about to say, can you say that again?
We'll have
He's
to
like,
update.
you got to talk to some country people.
Some
rural
I'm
people.
from South Georgia.
I don't want to hoe on no roads.
The other point I wanted to make is that, and again, nobody will receive it.
Yeah.
But what Mayor Adams did in paying for this program the way he is a fraction of what they would spend.
Yeah.
And the food program that they are currently running.
Okay.
So he's saving money. He's doing it in a culturally sensitive way. He's addressing the problem and demonstrating leadership as a mayor, as are the others. But it is also fitting into a narrative that is very convenient for the other side. And I think we got to be aware of it. We got to see it all the way through. And I agree with you. We have to interrogate the same language being used by the oppressor. Now we're adopting and we're using it. And I think it is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And I think that doesn't see anything. This is food, shelter, safety, security. And if you come against any of that for me and mine, there are no rules on the table.
Can I ask you a question before we close out? Often I read the comments sometimes on our YouTube, our social media, my comments, my people email me to my website. They DM me, all of you guys. A lot of times people email me to my website. They've copied you guys, but it's accounts you all never check. But nonetheless, I read them. Right. A lot of consistent comments about you specifically, Andrew. I think people feel, I know this is not true, but people feel abandoned. Like, Andrew, you left us with DeSantis. And, like somehow you're like, I don't want to be governor, guys. Never mind, But people are always like
to count all the votes.
Right. But people, they feel away. And they're like, when are you getting back in the game? And when I hear you week after week on this podcast, I do wonder, do you think you'll ever run for office again?
I don't know. But I do know this. There are a lot of ways in which we can be of service. And serving in the office of a policymaker is just one route. We can. I think I'm on purpose and on mission, on God's mission here, only because I think we can penetrate minds. I think we can engage people. I think what this country needs more than anything right now is a real revolution. And I don't mean to, I'm not turning the table over and whatever, but a revolution from the standpoint of we have left it to somebody else to take care of that, to go and take care of that, to go and handle that. By way of politics for too long, thinking that we have to be locked out because we don't know enough about it. It's too complicated. It's hard. I wouldn't know what to do here. And the system benefits by all of us who draw that conclusion. I'm saying it ain't that complicated. It's as simple as I'm a priority. I'm a living, human, breathing thing. I deserve what I need in order to survive. And the government has the ability to do that part and to help you do your part. But if we keep checking out, who holds them accountable? Those marbles never get picked up off the floor.
Well, we need all the marbles to weigh in on who holds them accountable on social media, because guess what? We out of time.
We're out.
I asked. A lot of people want to ask Andrew that question in the comments. I asked for you.
Yes.
You got the answer.
You got the answer. Thanks for listening, y'all. Remember to rate, review, subscribe, and tune in to our regular episode every Thursday. Welcome home, y'all.
Native Land Pod is a production of iHeartRadio in partnership with Reason Choice Media. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.